Well, welcome back to another episode of the Science of Winning podcast. And I'd like to wish you the very best in 2026. Happy New Year to all of those that are tuning into this podcast. I really appreciate your support. And I wish you and your families a ton of success, love, joy, happiness, well-being, you name it. I hope you get it all this year. Today, I want to talk about a recap for 2025 and the top 6 things I learned. And some of the things that I'm going to be focusing on myself. So I'm going to be talking a lot about myself here on this episode. So bear with me. But just the main learnings that I got from last year, because it was an interesting year, and what I'm going to be doing differently, and perhaps what you could maybe take from this conversation and apply to your own life and approach as well. So the first one is 2026, I believe, is going to be a massive year for opportunity because so much change is happening, whether it's AI, technology, the stuff that's happening down south in the US and how things are going down there. Amongst all of this chaos, within chaos, there's always opportunity. And we have to seize that opportunity at this moment. So I think there's going to be a lot of people in 2026 that are still going to be frozen from 2025. They're still in that shock and they're not moving forward. But those who do move forward, whether it's from a business perspective or a personal perspective, you are the ones that are actually going to reap the benefits because things are going so fast right now. The faster we move, the more opportunity that we're going to be able to capture. So 2026, I think the opportunity there is definitely from a business perspective because of the AI transition. A lot of people are fearing AI, and I'm going to talk about AI and one of the 6 things that I learned here, because I don't think it's all good from an AI perspective. But one of the things, it's creating absolute opportunity for businesses if we implement it appropriately and properly. And there's going to be a lot of people and organizations that don't. And that's going to create opportunity in itself. So the biggest thing and the number one thing that I've talked about in one of my past episodes is that the most important trait that we can have as individuals is optimism. So that falls into the first thing that I learned is that there's so much opportunity, but in order for us to capture it, we have to have this innate ability to be optimistic. When all the news is crap, when all the YouTube media is talking down and out about all the things that are happening and the negativity out there, we have to raise our standards when it comes to optimism. So that's the first thing that I learned is to raise my standards for optimism to a completely new level. The second thing is now we're going to talk about AI a little bit. I am so fascinated with AI. I have a love-hate relationship with AI, and I've been testing it quite a bit personally and in business. And here's my observation. Not necessarily a conclusion at this time, but an observation. AI has so much functionality and opportunity, and I can't tell you how I was playing around with it this past weekend, and I was able to do some really incredible stuff. Like I built 4 websites within a day, and it was incredible. I would never be able to do that. I kind of do that for fun because I enjoy the marketing aspect of it and wordplay and trying to figure out, what is it that people want? What is it that people don't want? And so I was able to do that much faster with AI. So AI is improving our productivity in so many ways, and we do have to adopt it. And those who do not adopt it are definitely going to be left behind. Now, here's the flip side to AI. And this is the main point I want to make. So point number 2 is that in many cases, yes, it's improving our productivity and making us more effective, but it's also making us dumber. And let me give you a simple example. If you take a look at our ability to drive around town and drive to a new location or drive to an existing location, here's what I'm finding from personal experience and also just actually asking those around me and doing a little bit of, you can say, unconventional research in this particular area. Not formal academic research, but unconventional research. Is that AI is actually not making us smarter in certain things. For example, I am finding that when I use GPS, and that's not necessarily AI, it's just a technology, right? But let's take a look at those who use GPS to go to the same location over and over again, never really learn how to get to that location without GPS, or they second guess themselves a lot. So it's a term that we use called wayfinding, which is our ability to find our way to a particular location. And AI and technology is slowing that down. And it has a lot to do with the hippocampus, which is a part of our brain that is involved in memory and learning. And we're not able to flex that as much when we are using technology. It's the same thing when we get used to using a calculator versus doing calculations in our head. So, we very soon forget how to do math equations, add, subtract, multiply, divide in our head. And so my concern is that when we are using technology to such a high degree, particularly with AI, because it's absolutely phenomenal, is that we're gonna miss out on the basic skills, and that people are becoming dumb without technology. So that's the point number 2: is AI is great, but if we become too dependent on AI, we will become dumb. Okay, and point number 3 has to do with technology as well, which is I'm finding that a lot of people are starving and craving human connection. And human connection is the foundation for health and well-being and fulfillment in life. And we are leaning on technology, whether it's social media. I'm even seeing a lot of people now use AI as an entertainment mechanism. Yes, this is going to be the next wave of AI, when it becomes your best buddy, tells you jokes, and it becomes someone that you confide in, interact with, rather than a real human being. We're just moments away from that. And so we are going to lose that human connection. And I've already seen that happen in 2025. But we got to bring this back. I'm a total optimist. I'm a realistic optimist. And so when I'm sharing this information with you, it's not about conspiracy theories. These are trends that I'm observing, and these are things that I'm seeing, and I pay attention and I write down a lot of notes. I have literally hundreds of pages of notes in terms of the observations that I make about society, performance, individuals, like the clients that we work with. And what we are seeing is a very, you can say, steep curve when it comes to people's loneliness and lack of connection. And as a result of that, we are also seeing people become less conscious when it comes to relationships. What that means is when two people are in each other's presence, they are not fully aware of what the other person may need or require. And that's what happens when we interact with technology too much and we lose our connection with other human beings. So the flip side to this is that there's a lot of opportunity here because people are craving it. People are craving in-person workshops. We're seeing that in our business. People are craving community. People are craving that human touch. And that is going to be a great opportunity when it comes to a competitive advantage. If you can implement technology, but keep the human touch and the human connection high, your business is going to be able to move forward and get ahead. And that leads into point number 4. The fourth thing that I learned in 2025 is that our communities are falling apart. Less and less people are going to church or going to their place of faith. We have less community groups, for example, and less people wanting to go out for whatever reason it is. I think there's a trailing effect from the COVID where people just got used to staying home and being isolated. But we need to find these communities. We need to find these groups. And I'm just going to share a personal example for myself is I've joined a community of CEOs, which is called the McKay CEO Forums in Canada. And I absolutely am a huge advocate of that because it's groups of CEOs and executives that come together that not only talk about business, but also our personal challenges. And we have built these connections and these communities where we feel supported. And when a person feels supported, this is another factor that plays into human longevity, basically how long a person lives. One of the top factors that they've identified is that it's not just human connection, but it's also community. Being part of a community or feeling like you're part of a community where people support you, where people have your back. And we need that as well. Every human being needs that feeling. Every human being wants that, to feel like those people, whether it's friends or family members, a spouse, whoever it may be in your life, has your back, regardless of the situation or the challenges that you face. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing differently as a result in 2026, based on points number 3, which is a human connection, is being lost, and communities are starting to shrink. Point number 4 is that I'm going to be more active and proactive in connecting with community groups, whatever that may look like, whether that's a CEO group that I've talked about or other groups. I'm going to be more active in that, not only for my own personal benefit, but for the benefit of other people. Because if we go out there, we join more groups, guess what ends up happening? other people will as well. And so we got to create this trend. We have to create this, I don't want to say movement, but this approach of bringing human connection and community back into everyday life and living. And this is why I'm not opposed, some of you might not like this, I'm not opposed to people being, I don't want to say forced, but encouraged to go back into the office for work. I think people can work effectively at home if they have the right schedule and the right process and discipline. I'm a huge advocate of that as well, but I believe it's very important to have people back in the office for community. More than anything else is building that community, which is very important. The fifth thing that I learned, which is, I'm going to say, or maybe this is the sixth thing. I think I kind of went out of whack here a little bit. Is the sixth thing that I learned is that we have a real challenge with not misinformation, but disinformation. People are purposely putting out false, inaccurate information and even lies to sway people's opinions and perspectives. So many times this past year, I've talked to professionals. We are talking about professionals with designations, professionals with high education, even at the PhD level, where they are saying information or repeating information that is not correct or inaccurate in significant ways. And when I ask them the source of the information, they repeat back a certain website or YouTube channel, whatever that may be. And that is a real challenge because it's so easy to go out there and build a YouTube channel or a podcast. Even like myself, I always tell people, if you're going to listen to me, I highly encourage you to double check if you're ever curious about whether Pradeep spews out garbage or not. I encourage you to actually go out there and look for yourself and find information yourself. But it's very easy for someone to pick up a microphone and talk. It's very easy for someone to pick up a camera and record a YouTube video and be a so-called expert. We have to be very careful about the information that we're getting because I do believe that there is a very intentional effort to put out information out there to get people to think a certain way. Absolutely 110%. I'm not talking about a conspiracy theory. This is very intentional on people's and organizations' part. Okay, we're seeing this primarily all across the world in countries and even in the US and even here in Canada. And it's unfortunate, but we need to pay attention to that. Okay. And as a result of that, this is what's most important. Academic institutions are still relevant. News is still relevant if the news can be neutral and actually talk about facts. Very few news channels are actually like that now. But it's really important. And so when I say news channels, I'm talking about journalism within news is still very important. It's still very relevant because a credible journalist will go out there. And there's a saying, and this is kind of an unsaid thing or even a said thing within journalism. You got to find 5 people that corroborate something before you actually talk about it, before you put it out there as a fact. And some people even talk about having 8 sources saying the same thing. So journalism is very relevant. It's very appropriate. And I still support it because they go through much higher rigor or more rigor than someone that's on YouTube, for example. So let's take a look at journalism as being relevant, but also academics, universities, research institutions are more relevant than ever because they have to adhere to a certain standard to put information out there. And not that this is a fear, but it's very important to understand that AI operates on information. And if that information is incorrect, or if it's even skewed a certain way, intentionally or unintentionally, that AI is not going to give you the right or accurate information. It's going to be very biased. We're already seeing that. So these are the main things that I learned in 2025 and the main things that I'm going to be focused on in 2026 is looking for those opportunities, stepping up as a leader as well. This is the sixth part, actually. I should talk about this. This is the one I missed. We are lacking leadership here, whether it's in Canada, very much so in the US, and even across the world. We have to step up as leaders and be better leaders, and that starts with us. Whether it's the man in the household or the woman in the household, it starts with us. We have to be more mindful. We have to be more conscious. We have to step up as leaders and do that. And a subsequent element, and maybe this is maybe this is point number 7, okay, is that particularly in Canada, we have to be more unified than ever. If we are going to be successful as a country, and I believe that we will be extremely successful if we come together as a unified country and even blow past the states. I'm not talking about from an economic standpoint, but I'm talking about from a standard of living standpoint, because we will be united. Right now, the United States is not united. We need to be united as a country within Canada. And that means that us as leaders need to be more mindful. And that brings a lot of opportunity forward for us and everybody, every one of our loved ones that lives in this country. So let me summarize, because I think there are 7 things. Number 1, we have to be unified as a country. Number 2, 2026 is a year of opportunity. We have to jump on it. We have to use it. We have to look for every opportunity we can. Number 3, AI is a very important thing for us to implement in our businesses, but it's also going to present a lot of challenges because it is making people dumber. Human connection is another thing. So human connection is very, very important, very, very critical, and we need to bring that back, and it starts with us. Then that also leads to being part of a community or a group that can support us and that we can be part of, that we can support other people. And those are the main things that I've learned. Hopefully, I've talked about all 7 appropriately and effectively. If you can take something from that adds value to your approach in 2026, let me know. I'm more than happy to hear from you. And if you have any questions or any topics that you would like me to cover this year in 2026, when it comes to human performance or psychology or business, please feel free to reach out. And I'm more than happy to talk about that topic or subject on a future episode. Take care and all the best in 2026.